Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel. Going to break down the Steve Sarkisian Thursday Zoom call before Texas takes on Arkansas, getting back to DKR. This edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by our friends at Hayes City Store. Hayes City Store is one of those special restaurants. You go to it the first time, you know right away it's a special place. And scratch-made Texas comfort food is what they're all about. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, the award-winning chicken fried steak, homemade desserts. All of it's good, and it's all made from scratch. They've got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. They've got 13 TVs in their ice house. It's perfect for game days, whether it's Saturday or Sunday. And if you're out there on Sunday, they've got that brunch menu available from 10 to 3. Hayes City Store is dog-friendly. They've got a tree net for the kids. So gather up your whole crew and head on out to Hayes City Store. For more information, check out the website at hayescitystoretx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas. CJ, all the good sound bites and quotes coming out of Sark's Zoom call. We'll save that for the end, but let's get down to some of the meat and potatoes with Texas and Arkansas. Anthony Hill, coming off the hand injury against Georgia, was listed as questionable on the first availability report from the conference on Wednesday. Sark expects the same thing tonight, trying to work him back into the mix. And CJ, this is a game where you really need all hands on deck on defense, facing one of the most explosive, productive offenses in the country with a true dual threat quarterback that can beat you with his legs or his arm in Taylon Green. Even if he's only got one hand available, a one-handed Anthony Hill is better than nothing against Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's still a heck of a player, whether he has both hands or not. Sark did say he's been limited this week in practice. How limited, he didn't expand further on that. So what to expect for his availability this weekend is still up in the air. Again, to your point, Jeff, Anthony Hill will, or is at least expected to be, listed as questionable this evening when the Thursday night SEC availability report drops. But Sark did have some praise for the rest of his linebacking room. He said, look, whether it's Anthony Smith and his speed, Leon Galafau and his versatility, and the way that he kind of described Trey Moore is more of that stature, right? That size and that strength. He said he feels good about this Texas linebacking room. What's going to be really interesting is if Anthony Hill is unable to go, do we see Bo Barnes at all into that rotation? That's something I'm waiting to see. But right now, the status of Anthony Hill remains unchanged. Still questionable, still monitoring that hand.
And, look, Sark by no means, and at no point did he say this, regardless of what people might see, hear, or read. He was not comparing Taylon Green to Lamar Jackson on the call today, but he talked about Bobby Petrino's offense, CJ, and how it has evolved over the years. Always had really good offensive line play, a strong run game, but really when he got to Louisville and you've got a unicorn like Lamar Jackson, made good use of the quarterback run game, and that's what stands out about Taylon Green, CJ. We've seen him evolve. He's a much more consistent player now than he was last season for Arkansas. He's kind of evened out a little bit, not so much the highs and lows we saw, but just a really even baseline for Taylon Green this year. And he can beat you scrambling with the off-schedule plays. He's also got almost 500 yards this year, 500 positive yards on quarterback-designed runs. So either way, CJ, this is a guy that can hurt you.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that he described the Petrino offense is, look, it could be pro style in the run game, pro style in the pass game, or he could just say, hey, we got a great running dual threat quarterback, defend that. And with Taylon Green, it's very much the same. To your point, he's been dynamic this season. He's cut down on some pretty lofty turnover numbers a year ago as well. And as a result, when you have weapons like Washington and Russell in the backfield or Omega Blake on the outside, good things tend to happen. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Texas defends them. We talked about the linebacker position against a team like Arkansas, Jeff. The middle of the field has to be very difficult to move the football moving forward. And right now, that bodes well a little bit more so due to the uncertainty of Anthony Hill towards the Arkansas side. So Texas is going to have their handful. It's going to be a big game for Pete Kwiatkowski.
One thing Sark mentioned on Monday, he was asked about Justice Terry and his kind of evolution through this season, his development. We've seen more of Jonah Williams lately. We're seeing more of Cade Phillips actually getting live snaps at corner. And, Sark talked a lot today, CJ, about the portal and evaluations and signing day coming up. And I think one thing that doesn't need to get lost sight of, look, you did bring in the number one recruiting class in the country. And even on a team where you've got guys at multiple positions that are going to be NFL players, we're starting to see more and more of those guys get on the field. Is there anybody you're looking forward to seeing this weekend, maybe see more of, or that we've seen the last couple of weeks, see if they can continue to evolve?
Yeah, I think Justice Terry's one, right? And, of course, we've seen a lot of Anthony Smith throughout the year. He's going to see a an increased, at least that's the belief, an increased number of snaps on the linebacker. But for me, it's Cade Phillips. And, I asked a whole lot about Sarkisian and the kind of his approach to recruiting lengthier, longer, faster cornerbacks, and whether or not that would convey a more man-to-man defense for Texas, because we haven't seen a lot of that. And I know a lot of Texas fans are wondering, well, they sit back in 7 or 8 yards of coverage, they just give up 5 free yards, Jeff. Why is that the case? And I asked him, I said, hey, I know you talked about when you recruit these guys, the ability to play man coverage. Where's kind of that been? He said, well, to play man coverage, you got to play with confidence. And right now we're still working through some confidence kinks right now with some of the guys at cornerback. I know it's week 10 going into week 11 when it comes to games played this year, but when you have younger guys who have yet to do it fully or full time at the position, it's difficult to just throw them out there against high level competition and expect them to stick hip to hip with a number of big time talented wide receivers. So that's one thing I'm really interested in seeing is the last 2 weeks, we've seen a lot of Cade Phillips against a team like Arkansas that is very high powered offensively. What is that confidence? How does that confidence grow for the freshman corner? And what kind of defense does that lend Texas to be able to play with Phillips and Muhammad on the field at the same time?
Yeah, CJ, Sark talks about the confidence issues, and I one number I pulled this week that I've been kind of fixated on is just looking in just SEC play, passes broken up. Texas was 17. That's tied with 3 other teams, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt, for last in the SEC. Now, you are giving up a lot of easy completions. That's part of it. But to your point, CJ, confident guys typically make plays on the ball. Guys just aren't making enough plays on the ball. They're not in position right to make plays on the ball. And that's where you're giving up a lot of yak situations. Obviously, we've seen coverage bust. It just, for whatever reason, CJ, this year, just the front end and the back end, your blitzes and your coverages, your pressures and your coverages, they just haven't been. And granted, look, you lose the Thorpe Award winner, you lose a second-round pick in Andrew Makuba, that's going to hurt. But it just hasn't been tied together like it has been the last 2 years.
No, and to Sark's point, look, confidence comes with experience. The ability to sit there and diagnose and to play your game confidently is something that I'm sure Texas hasn't necessarily had a whole lot of. You have a first-time outside starting corner with Jalen Gilbo this year, right? Who gets beat week 1 in a game where only 3 touchdowns are scored. I'm sure confidence wasn't very high after that. Cade Phillips, a true freshman. Now, it's not to say this is impossible, and this isn't excuses, but I understand where Sarkisian's coming from. Obviously, last year with Jahdae Barron, you had 40 career starts, 50 career games. Andrew Makuba was a freshman All-American, had 4 years of starting experience in the back end. You had more experience there. So games like this against high-flowing offenses, this is where you breed that confidence moving forward. And I can only imagine looking ahead to next season, a guy with a lot of confidence coming into the season should be Grayson Littleton, considering how well he's played and how often he's played as a true freshman.
CJ, on the Arkansas game, just as a whole, big picture, Sark was asked about the state of the rivalry, and he admitted, look, a lot of the guys on the team probably don't know anything about the history of the Texas-Arkansas game. But if you've been through, if you cross those state lines, especially if you've been to a game in Fayetteville, the hatred for Texas runs deep in the state of Arkansas. And one way I could put it, CJ, to anybody that doesn't really understand the rivalry, and look, I was in the 2nd grade when Arkansas last played Texas as a Southwest Conference member before they left for the SEC. So I have a very limited frame of reference to this in terms of them being a conference rival. I would say to almost look at it like Texas fans traditionally have looked at Texas Tech. No matter what their record is, they can make their season if they beat you. And they're probably always going to play one of the better games of the season against you. You were in Fayetteville last year. I've been to Fayetteville. Once was probably enough for me, but am I right when I say maybe look at it like traditionally you've looked at a team like Texas Tech when you think about Arkansas?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Sam Pittman even said that 1.5 years ago at SEC Media Day, saying, it kind of doesn't matter. We got one message from the athletic director, just go beat Texas. And he reemphasized that, saying, I think I hate Texas and our fans hate Texas more than they like themselves. So that gives you an understanding of the passion, the hatred, everything that falls in between that. But to your point, what Sark was trying to convey is that, the players probably don't understand that. Maybe from the Arkansas side, because they perhaps weren't recruited by Texas enough. They carry that hatred a little bit, but, a rivalry can't be one emotion on one side, and so Texas is going to have to bring it. And according to Sark, and I know Texas fans are probably going to want to mute me after this, Jeff, but this has been a focused week for Texas in practice so far. Now let's see if that carries over to Saturday.
This week has been something. And coming
It sure
off, really, you go back to the morning of the Mississippi State game with the Diana Rossini report from The Athletic, and pretty much that the circus has not stopped from then on, CJ. And Sark addressed it on the SEC teleconference on Wednesday with his prepared statement, which we reported on here on the channel and over on ontexasfootball.com. And he was asked today, hey, who was that for? Was it for the media? Was it for the fans? Was it for recruits? Because signing day is coming up. Programs trying to poach your players. And Sark basically, yes, it was for all of the above. And I think to get an idea, CJ, where Sark's mindset is, what he's not exactly happy with, and you transcribed the quote on ontexasfootball.com, and I'll read it right now. Says, quote, so that they understand they can't just take their trash out and have a thought to think, hey, I think Texas is going to have a job opening. I don't know. Think about something else when you're taking out your trash. Obviously referencing the Desmond Howard video, but CJ, this got asked to Sark in a couple of different ways. Texas is dealing with more outside noise this year than they have really probably going back to Sark's first year with the Bo Davis bus incident. Yeah. And we can go through all the stuff that went on year one, but it's probably been since then where you face something like this. In the big picture, at the very least, CJ, I'm thinking maybe this just calluses this team up and they come out of this better. Look, we won't know until we know for sure what Sark's future is. Me personally, I'm going to take him at his word based on what he says in what he says publicly. But I don't know, CJ. I think the best thing that's probably going to come out of this is maybe this team just comes, and Sark talked about this, maybe they just come together, they're calloused up, and we see a different product on the field in 2026.
I think that's exactly it, Jeff. And I think the season probably hasn't been as fun for anybody inside the building of Moncrief and DKR over there. But look, winning cures all, right? And you have the opportunity this weekend to get a pretty big win, to go to 8-3. Again, to push for everything that's ahead of you and set up a big meeting with Texas A&M in the final week of the season. But losing amplifies us all as well, right?
Yeah.
And look, I think that's one thing for Texas is they've had to experience that for the first time in several years. And it's been a steady incline. Each year you've kind of gone up and up and up and up the ranks of college football. That first setback, Texas is experiencing it now, and they're doing so with a young team. I think Sark even mentioned today, Texas is, quote, dramatically young, and especially on the offensive side of the ball coming into the season. Well, you're about to be 11 games in the season. Your youth can't be used as an excuse anymore. But what you can use in moving forward, what should be a benefit of this season, is that hardened skin and that ability to fight through and go through just about anything while remaining intact collectively in the locker room.
And we'll end it, CJ, because Sark actually was asked about the portal, and he mentioned it. That portal window's coming up in January, assuming things hold the form right now and Texas does not make the college football playoff in a really big year, maybe your last year with Arch Manning in 2026, where you really need to load up, when Texas can kind of devote all of their resources to finishing a recruiting cycle strong and loading up in the transfer portal. Maybe that's the silver lining to this, CJ. Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that Sark and company can go into December with their eyes just solely fixated on recruiting in the portal.
Hey, and if you miss the college football playoff, which right now it feels likely, right? That's your silver lining, is you didn't get an opportunity a year ago to truly assess, at least, time-wise. You should have been able to truly assess what your roster next year was looking like, especially with the spring portal window as well. But that's going to be the entire focus. And I've heard behind the scenes, I think Sark wants to take a more hands-on approach to the personnel decisions when it comes to building and constructing his roster from a numbers standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, from an experience and who Texas targets in the portal standpoint. So again, should Texas be on the sideline or preparing for just one game in December and January, Jeff, this should give them the opportunity to go full steam ahead towards the portal and making sure that there are no holes on this roster going into 2026.
CJ, before you give your final thoughts on the Zoom call and the Arkansas game, I'll just say this. When you look at everything Sark talked about today, all the stuff this team has dealt with on the field, off the field, and otherwise, we've talked a lot on the channel. Hey, what could they have done differently in the offseason to avoid this? Where could things have gone better? Who could have evolved there? What was missed? He did say, hey, with the playoff situation the way it is, they have to focus on controlling what they can control. And the only thing they can control, CJ, is how they prepare for and perform on Saturday against Arkansas. Not saying that a win over Arkansas would cure everything, but I think everybody will be able to just exhale a little bit if Texas goes out on the field on Saturday and gets a dub in what's shaping up to be a really big recruiting weekend for this program.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me is, look, you're bringing in 6 or 7 different official visitors. Some guys are on flip watch. You're bringing in Richard Anderson, one of the best defensive linemen in the entire country. There's a big opportunity here for Texas to continue building this 2026 class. And I know folks are sitting there saying, well, we're wondering about the 25 season and winning and getting towards perhaps squeaking into the back end of the playoff. And I understand. But at the same time, building the future and getting the guys for this upcoming signing day, which is right around the corner, Jeff, is still very important and still at the top of the priority list for Texas. Then, of course, winning cures all. I mentioned that earlier. Win over your rival with the potential to go 3-0 over your rivals. Boy, oh boy, does that solve a lot of that. Man, it wasn't Texas's year, but hey, you had some big wins in there.
You got to be able to hang your hat on something whenever a college football season is over. CJ, thank you for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to our friends over at Hayes City Store for sponsoring it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, you can get over to the site right now and sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for just $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our coverage before, during, and after every Texas game this season. For CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.